Yes, it's only been one game, but it's still not too early to ask some questions about these Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Thursday, October 10th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. The Bruins will be hosting the Montreal Canadiens tonight in their home opener. They've only played one game, a loss to the Florida Panthers. Still not too early to ask some questions about the makeup of this team and their style of play, and we'll get into that here in a moment. First, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. And speaking of dad jokes, happy birthday to my dad, Jim, in Ottawa. Hope you're having a great day, Dad. I'll give you a call later on. All right, so the Bruins lost 6-4 to the Florida Panthers the other night, and they will be hosting the Montreal Canadiens. We'll talk about them later on, but they had a pretty solid start to the season by shutting out the Toronto Maple Leafs last night by a score of 1-0. For me, though, it's not too early to ask some questions about these Boston Bruins. And under Jim Montgomery, there's been some trends that have developed, and perhaps intentional. Now, Jim Montgomery, when he came in, he made it clear that his objective in trying to ignite the offense was to transform the Bruins from a high-volume shooting team to one that practices greater precision in chance generation. Those were Fluto Shinzawa's words from a couple years ago. And what that means, and I reference these stats sometimes, and I will in the game breakdowns as well, shot attempts, shot differential, high danger chances, basically at 5-on-5 or all throughout the game, there's tracking tools that measure each shot attempt on net. So whenever a guy takes the puck, fires it toward the net, that's a shot attempt. High danger chances are anything that's within kind of between the dots and down into, like, picture drawing a baseball home plate from the goal line out, and anything in that area is considered a high danger opportunity, high danger chance. Since Jim Montgomery took over in 2022, in 165 regular season games, so 2 full regular seasons plus the game against the Panthers, the Bruins have indeed been regularly out attempted at 5-on-5. They have a shot attempt differential of 48.99, meaning around 49% of the shot attempts have been generated by the Bruins, 51% by the opposition. Total shots, it's pretty much even at 5-on-5, 50.36% in favor of the Bruins. High danger chances are in favor of the Bruins. They limit the opposition to about 47.95% of the high danger chances and have generated 52.05%. Now, all of this is well and good when you have 2 elite level goalies. And over the past 2 regular seasons and 1 game, even including that game the other night, the Bruins have the highest save percentage in the NHL 5-on-5, where the majority of the game is played. They also have the highest PDO, which is adding up shooting percentage at 5-on-5, and save percentage at 5-on-5. Their shooting percentage is 9.7. Their save percentage is 93.33. So it works out to be about 1.033. And the belief is that things will level off around 100 under normal circumstances. Teams average around 10% shooting and around 9% shooting and maybe 91 save percentage. All that to say, the Bruins, and this trend continued in that game against the Florida Panthers, they are regularly outshot. They try to limit the opposition's high danger chances. But the odds are, with less than elite level goaltending, that the more you get the puck on net, the more often it's going to go in, especially with a somewhat leaky goaltender like Joonas Korpisalo. So this system may not work as well without the benefit of Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman in net. It just stands to reason that as your team save percentage drops, if you're regularly getting outshot, you're going to give up more goals. It's just basic math. I'm not a fancy stats expert. I'm not an advanced stats guy like some other people, but it's just logical that if you're giving up more shots than the opposition, and on a night where Jeremy Swayman is off, or you're forced to go with Korpisalo or maybe Brandon Bussey, the puck's going to go in more often than not. And you need to have, if you're going to rely on a system that focuses less on shot volume and more on high danger chances, then you need finishers to make sure those high danger chances convert to actual goals. And that's another question that needs to be raised about this team. And we'll discuss that here as the podcast continues. Hockey season is on. Football season is well underway, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com. Check out, for example, Boston's over-under on total points this season. It's set at 97.5. Maybe you are looking at the under after the other night's performance. Maybe you think they'll exceed expectations. Put that $5 down and you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed no matter what the outcome is of that $5 bet. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check the latest stats, live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Again, get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Please do subscribe so that you never miss a thing. So I discussed Boston's system where they rely more on high danger shots than shot volume, which results in them being regularly outshot on a consistent basis. And let's remove the record-breaking regular season and look at last season and the first game of this season. The Bruins, in terms of shot attempts generated at 5-on-5, ranked 25th in the NHL. They have allowed 4,061 shot attempts. They generated only 3,591. That's a pretty big gap, 500 or so. When you look at shots, the Bruins rank 24th. This is at 5-on-5, again, where the majority of the game is played. They allowed 1,947 shots. They've generated 1,808 shots. When it comes to high danger chances, things are a bit more in their favor, almost an even 50% split, 764 for, 762 against. And high danger goals, they have a lot better success, 104 for, 79 against, 56.83. But again, that is a product of having two high-level goaltenders. In the game against the Florida Panthers, again, it's a one-game sample size, and the Florida Panthers are the top team in the NHL for a reason. They're very, very good. The Bruins, 5-on-5, generated only 15 shots to 27 by the Panthers. 5-2, the goal differential at 5-on-5. And the high danger chances were 16, or high danger attempts, I should say, were 16-7 in favor of Florida. High danger goals, 4-1 in favor of the Panthers. When you have a lesser goalie like Korpisalo in net, that system begins to devolve. And you also need some finishers. If you look at this team, how it's currently constructed, I have major questions about who is going to score for this team beyond the usual suspects. Obviously, we know David Pastrnak is going to have another banger of a season, push for at least 50 goals, 100 and something points. But you look at Elias Lindholm, he's had one pretty great offensive season. But other than that, his career high in goals is he's had 27, 29, a 42-goal season, a 22-goal season. So he's more than capable of hitting like 20, 25. Morgan Geekie had 17 last season as a career high. Pavel Zacha had 21, which is a career high. Charlie Coyle had 25, which was a career high. These guys need to replicate those career seasons or improve upon them in order to give the Bruins the best possible shot here. Justin Brazeau had 5 goals in 19 games. He's only got 20 games total at the NHL level. I have major questions about who is going to score for this team. Can you count on Max Jones to chip in double-digit goals? John Beecher taking that step up. Marcus Stellick's not going to put in goals for you. Cole Koepke is probably not going to pop in a bunch of goals. Trent Frederick needs to take a step up and kind of become what Jake DeBrusk has been for this team. But right now, there's a real lack of skill in the lineup. The big focus was on all the size that they added. This team is going to be so much harder to play against. That wasn't the case in the Florida game. And you look at the lineup at the moment, you have maybe 2 fourth lines going. I penciled in Jones and Brazeau as fourth liners or extra skaters. Frederick as a third liner for sure. Maybe a guy who can move up. Koepke I didn't have in the lineup. Beecher, Kostelic were on the fourth line. Hopefully Matt Poitras can get healthy and back into the lineup sooner than later. Maybe they sign Tyler Johnson to a deal or promote Fabian Lysell. But there's real questions about who is going to score for this team based on their style of play. And part of that is also trying to get more movement from the back end. And Charlie McAvoy was one of Boston's best players in the game the other night. A goal and an assist. He leads the team with 2 points. We'd love to see more of that. Mason Lohrei got off to a rough start. Hopefully he can generate some offense from the back end. Maybe Nikita Zadorov. He has some offensive flair. Maybe he can pop the puck up again. 22 points was his career high back in 21-22. But he did score 14 goals in 2022-23, albeit on an elevated shooting percentage. So they perhaps need to focus more on shot volume than trying to make the perfect passes, trying to get those high danger chances. Just get the puck on net. Some of those high danger chances are created by firing from afar generating rebounds. Think about that Game 7 winner against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was a strategic dump in, just getting the puck in the zone. David Pastrnak collected it, burned everybody with his speed, caught everybody flat-footed, and was able to score that game winner. That's the kind of stuff you need to do, and you need those finishers in order to make good on those opportunities. Now, listen, another part of it is the slow starts that the Bruins have. How many times back in the playoffs did we say this team needs to come out strong? They need to come out firing. They need to get some early opportunities. And then they would struggle to get shots on goal early on. They would be outshot by a wild margin. And then they were fighting from behind in order to try to prevail. Think about game 5 and 6 against the Maple Leafs. Even some of the later games against the Panthers. They were consistently unable to get up for those opportunities, which was so frustrating. How is that even possible? Perhaps that's on the coaching for getting them ready, or perhaps it's just a style thing, or it's just the makeup of the roster, which is not conducive to goal scoring. Like, straight up, this team is big. They're harder to play against, but they're also not the speediest group in the league. Their biggest guys: Zadorov, Carlo, Lohrei, Brazeau, Kastelik, Lindholm, even Zaka, Max Jones. These guys are not known for their foot speed. Charlie Coyle. I think the one guy that stands out is maybe John Beecher as being speedy among this forward group. And that's maybe where you need a Lysell to come up and inject that speed and skill into the lineup, because there is a real absence of it at the moment. So those are some questions I have about this team early on. Whether this style and system is effective, whether the focus on size over skill is going to hurt them, and whether they are able to weather the shot barrage from the opposition when Swayman is off and when Korpisalo or another backup is in the net. They no longer have the luxury of two elite level goaltenders, and that certainly could come back to haunt them throughout the season. They do have an opportunity to turn things around here tonight against the Montreal Canadiens, a team that's coming off a game last night. We'll preview that here as the podcast continues. If you're looking for last-minute tickets for tonight's home opener or to a concert, comedy show, theater event, or another game near you, there's no better place to check out than Game Time. Game Time is such a fantastic ticketing app, and they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love the panoramic view from your seat, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive at the venue. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today, because what time is it? It's game time. Okay, having said all that about these very valid questions about this team, they do have an opportunity to turn things around tonight in what will likely be Jeremy Swayman's season debut against a Montreal Canadiens team that expended a lot of energy keeping the Toronto Maple Leafs at bay last night. And speaking of shot volume, the Canadiens allowed 47 shots on goal last night to the Toronto Maple Leafs, held them to 0 goals a fantastic performance by Sam Montembeault, who probably won't be in net tonight, seeing as he faced such a heavy workload. But maybe they want to ride the hot hand and see if he can keep it going against a Bruins offense that, again, is not super intimidating. Their backup is Caden Primo. I would expect him to get the start. It's generally not the best idea to start a goalie on back-to-back nights, especially when it involves travel and when you face such a heavy workload, but who knows? I do expect Jeremy Swayman to be in net tonight for the Bruins, and hopefully he can do to the Canadiens what Montembeault did to the Maple Leafs last night. In terms of the numbers, obviously small sample sizes so far. The Canadiens power play clicked last night at a 20% rate. The Bruins are 25%, 1 for 4. Both teams have yet to allow a power play goal. One area to focus in on is the face-off circle. Boston struggled a bit the other night against the Panthers, but the Canadiens were not better. In fact, they were much worse last night, winning only 33.3% of their face-off. So that is an area where the Bruins could take advantage and really get the puck, gather it, and start to generate some offense. The Bruins and Canadiens will play 3 times this season, which is far too low in my opinion. Once tonight, obviously, once on December 1st, which will be the culmination of the centennial celebrations, and then again on April 3rd. So kind of spread out. Unfortunate that they don't play more regularly, but such is the state of the NHL at this point. Their goal scorer last night was Cole Caulfield. Obviously, a guy always to keep an eye on. He's wearing number 13 this season in honor of Johnny Gaudreau. So I'm sure there will be some emotions for him playing in Boston with all the ties that the Gaudreaus have to the area. Other guys to keep an eye on, Captain Nick Suzuki, always dangerous. Juraj Slafkovsky looking to bust out even further this year. And Lane Hudson, of course, is a guy to watch on the back end. So, such a special player with the puck and really making things happen out there for the Montreal Canadiens so far this season. So Bruins, Canadiens tonight. Home opener for the Bruins should be quite a raucous crowd. And hopefully Boston can shake off the rust that came from the other night against the Panthers and focus in on what they need to accomplish, which is getting their first win of the season against a team that is, quite frankly, lesser than them. The Canadiens are looking to make steps forward in their rebuilding. They do have some good, young, talented players, but this is a team the Bruins should beat. And this is where, the Canadiens are relying on a couple undersized players in their top 6 on their top line. Suzuki, Caulfield. This is where the addition of Zadorov should come in handy, just really stifling those players. Lindholm shutting down Suzuki, Kirby Dach back healthy. The Bruins need to make a big stand tonight against the Canadiens, and Gord help us if Swayman makes the start and the Canadiens take this game on the second of a back-to-back in Boston's home opener. I don't want to say it's a must-win, but the Bruins really need to be a bit stronger than they were the other night against Florida. That's it for today's episode, my friends. Tomorrow we'll be back with all the storylines, stats, and signals you need to take away from tonight's game against the Canadiens. Please make sure to check out the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast next. You can become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to Locked On Bruins similarly, and we'll be back tomorrow to break down the Canadiens game. Hope you're all having a great week. Take care of yourselves, friends. Special shout out to anyone listening in Florida. I hope you're all safe, and your structures are sound. And we'll be back tomorrow here on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.